Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS show for Wednesday, May the 12th. Sorry, I got my days mixed up there for a second. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful Wednesday. If you are a DFO Premium subscriber, I do apologize. All the DFO sheets were a little bit late today. The wife had Wednesday off today. We got some yard work done, but crammed it in there just under the wire. I think got everything in at 4:30, but everything's ready to go. We're ready for a good DFO DFS show. We have a 5-game slate in total for the NHL today, 4 games for the DFS slate. 3-game slate for the late slate. It's a really nice late slate tonight. The main slate overall is kind of a little wishy-washy with this Maple Leafs Senators game, but overall, a 4-game slate. Graham Burning comes in, says good night again last night. Winnipeg won, smashed it. Yeah, Winnipeg won was terrific. They were the line I was the highest on last night. I really expected a big performance from the Jets, and they came through. Connor Hellebuyck was our number 1 goaltender on the slate, posted the shutout. The Bruins held in there better than I expected. I did tweet out a little earlier. I mentioned, I wasn't really sure how to feel about the Bruins last night until I was going to see their line combinations. And then they released those line combos and warm-ups, and I was like, these are just trash. There's no offense going to be generated from this lineup. So I was actually pretty high on the Bruins coming into last night. If they would have come out with the right combos, they just refused to do that. So I got off of them. And then I was actually pretty nervous because it wasn't going very well. They held their own, but overall, yeah, if you didn't have, Wheeler last night, you were pretty much screwed. But another pretty solid night last night. Hoping for another good one tonight. Hopefully we can keep this train rolling. But as I mentioned, 4-game slate. We'll start here with the goalies. If you are new, obviously anything in the top right-hand corner, those are our implied totals from Vegas. Expected goals for each team tonight, according to the Vegas line. The live Vegas line, that is. Also, anything you see in the DFO Google Sheets can be available by becoming a DFO Premium subscriber. Obviously, pretty late in the season to do that, but we do offer a weekly package. We will be running this throughout the postseason as well. So if you want to join, see what it's all about for this, for the first week of the playoffs, maybe you'll be, enticed to join for next year, which we have huge things coming next season. I got to keep them under lock and key a little bit for now, but big changes coming at DFO next year. So keep your eyes out for that. Good year to join DFO Premium without question. All right, the main slate, obviously the Oilers and Canadiens just got underway here a couple minutes ago. But the main slate starts at 8 p.m. with the Senators and the Maple Leafs. It's going to be Philip Gustafsson for the Sens. We are expecting to see the return of Frederik Andersen for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The St. Louis Blues will roll with Ville Husso tonight. It looks like it'll be Husso tonight, Jordan Binnington tomorrow for them. The Wild will go with Cam Talbot in St. Louis. For the Sharks, it's Alexei Melnichuk, or Melnichuk, however you pronounce that name. I'm sorry, I haven't, he's pretty fresh. Haven't heard that name pronounced so many times. Melnichuk, I'm pretty confident about that pronunciation, though, for the Sharks. For the Golden Knights, we're expected to see Marc-Andre Fleury, although unconfirmed at this point, but they've been rotating goaltenders pretty frequently. So look for Marc-Andre Fleury for the Golden Knights. And then in the nightcap, it's going to be most likely going to see Philip Grubauer for the Colorado Avalanche. Unclear who starts for the Kings, although Jonathan Quick has been sidelined recently, so most likely going to see them to continue to roll out Cal Peterson tonight. So a little bit of question marks here in net tonight, but overall, I think we have a pretty good grasp on who we're going to see. Let's start obviously up top with the Maple Leafs and the Senators. So the one thing that's a little bit questionable, I mentioned it about this game. So, they're not going to pull the full Boston Bruins bench everybody plan tonight. Matthews is expected to play. Tavares is expected to play. Nick Foligno returns to the lineup, but that's where the question marks are, right? So yesterday they had practice. Zach Hyman skated on the top line with Matthews and Marner. Riley Nash centered the third line. So the lineup was basically what we expect to see in the playoffs, but Nash and Hyman both out still. Foligno will play. So I'm not 100% sold on these lines because Nick Foligno primarily has skated with Matthews and Marner to this point in his Maple Leafs career. However, skating with Tavares and Nylander in practice today, leads me to believe that that's the plan heading into the playoffs. So I would imagine that they'll want to build some continuity between that line combination, and they'll probably keep them together tonight. And then obviously Thornton's had a pretty good run on that top line. So I would imagine this is what they will look like tonight. But again, just kind of keep in mind something to keep an eye on as we head into warmups at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But because of the question marks, I did just kind of use some different samples for those lines just in case things do change a little bit. So it allowed me to provide you guys with a little bit of flexibility regardless of what the line combinations do look like in warmups. But without any further ado, Toronto 1 and Toronto 2 look like very, very good targets on this slate. Ottawa 1, though, grades out extremely well as well. In terms of the matchups, we're going to see Ottawa 1 primarily going up against the top line and the second line, so the Matthews and the Tavares line. The second line will be almost exclusively hard matched against Matthews. Then the third line almost exclusively against John Tavares. So how does that look? We'll focus on the Maple Leafs a little bit more. So basically the top line, we'll see the top six of the Senators, and then John Tavares will see the first and third lines of the Senators. So in terms of what that looks like in terms of the matchups, the top two lines for the Senators, the top six, are, on paper, their worst defensive lines, both right around a 45 Corsi for percentage. The top line, obviously very impressive offensively, but as I've mentioned in previous episodes, they play very up-tempo, very high-event hockey, so that also, bodes well for the opposition. So going up for, this top, the Maple Leafs top line going up head-to-head with that top six the entire evening obviously looks extremely good on paper. Should be a matchup that Matthews and Marner continue to take advantage of. For the second line, they are going to see a little bit more of this third line, which, isn't terrible, but they're not great defensively either. They still grade out below average defensively on this slate, so not a bad matchup for them either. But overall, I'm not probably going to chase Toronto 2. There was a period of time there with Galchenyuk on that line where they were red hot, and I was really enjoying playing them. Tonight is probably not going to be that night. I think I'll probably just settle in with Toronto 1. Eat the chalk on them because it looks like the matchup is too good to pass up. Obviously, the question marks are going to be just how much these two lines play over the course of the season. Right about 60% of the 5v5 ice time has been given to those top two lines for the Maple Leafs. But, we saw it the other night with McDavid. Didn't quite play as much as he normally does. I'd expect Matthews to play a little bit less than normal. Tavares to play a little bit less than normal. So it's hard to really, go full in with Toronto tonight, but that top line looks like they're in just an absolutely primo spot tonight, so I do like them quite a bit. On the flip side, Ottawa 1, they're pretty much the only line you can target from the Senators right now. They're going to see that top six of the Maple Leafs, which is pretty good defensively, specifically that Matthews line. But that top line for the Senators has done a very nice job this season. 28 scoring chances, 4 per 60, 15 high danger, generating chances, at a very, very impressive rate. So regardless of the matchup, they remain a pretty strong option. The thing that kind of gets me excited about playing them tonight is I don't think that they'll be very high owned because, again, the matchup's obviously not great, but also just the fact that Frederik Andersen's making his return to the crease tonight. Not, overall, not that great this year. 897 save percentage and 23 starts over the course of this entire season. And then, he made about a game and a half, 95 minutes worth of playing time with the Marlies during a conditioning stint, gave up 6 goals on 52 shots for an 885 save percentage. It's not the strongest showing at the AHL level for Frederik Andersen either. And then, I don't know, me as a Red Wings fan, I love to kind of just get into the psyche of a Maple Leafs fan, and heading into the postseason, I know they're extremely nervous, maybe a little bit less than normal, but I think Maple Leafs fans are a little concerned that, Frederik Andersen, because he's back tonight, might be the game one starter. So, maybe he turns in a great performance and Sheldon Keefe starts to question himself. But overall, I'd expect him to be pretty, rusty, not look all that sharp. Jack Campbell's their guy. So I like the Senators top line tonight because I think Andersen probably gives up a couple leaky ones. Those AHL numbers are pretty concerning. So even though the matchup's not great, I don't expect Andersen to be all that sharp tonight. So the only line that really looks like it's worthwhile is Ottawa 1 for the Senators tonight. All right, second game of the night, we've got the St. Louis Blues and the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota, this opened up as a bit of a closer line. Minnesota, the lines moved in Minnesota's favor quite a bit. The implied total 3.4 for the Wild, 2.7 for the Blues. I would assume a lot of that has to do with the fact that Ville Husso gets the start for the Blues. Husso has not been all that great this year. 886 save percentage. Really not very impressive numbers for him. St. Louis 2 grades out pretty well, though, with the reuniting of Schwartz, Shed, and Kyrou. If you have been a longtime viewer of this show, you know that we were very high on them earlier in the year. Obviously, things have not gone their way over the last few months, but they are reunited. Their underlying numbers together are terrific. I would probably take them with a grain of salt. They aren't playing nearly as good as they were at the start of the season, but overall, they obviously have some chemistry together and have played well this season. Minnesota 2 looks pretty good as well. The rest of this game, maybe not so much, but we'll break it down. There are some interesting pieces to this game. Not a whole lot of hard matching going on in this game. The top line, the O'Reilly line, going to see basically just the top 9 of the Wild. The second line, the Shed line, is going to see a little bit more of line 1 and line 3. The third line is going to see a little bit more of the Wild fourth line. So kind of a difficult game to break down from that perspective, but we'll do our best here. We'll start with St. Louis 1 going up against the Wild top 9. It doesn't really matter who you face from the Wild. The whole team is good defensively. Maybe do not offer the same upside offensively, but defensively they are a tough sell. So yeah, for if you've watched the show plenty, you know that I am not very high on St. Louis 1, even in the cushiest of matchups. So this doesn't really look like a spot. I wasn't really all that high in them the other night against LA. They really didn't do anything. So in the tougher matchup, I'm really going to have a hard time going to them. St. Louis 2, obviously, they look really good on paper. Really nice matchup, or not really. Really nice underlying numbers, but not a great matchup going up against the Joel Eriksson line for 42% of their ice time. So even though the underlying numbers are really, really strong for Shed, Kyrou, and Schwartz, they haven't done anything recently, and the matchup is just horrendous. 42% of your ice time against Joel Eriksson does not normally result in good things. The one thing that does interest me, obviously the numbers here aren't great, but the one thing that does interest me, Klim Kostin makes his season debut. He played 4 games for the Blues last year. He makes his debut. He's going to play. He won the KHL championship, comes over, going to make his debut here with Robert Thomas and Mike Hoffman. So obviously, Thomas and Hoffman haven't been all that great together this year, but overall, the fact that you add Kostin to the mix should make them a little bit more electric. They obviously don't grade out very well, but to play them all at $9,000 seems like a risk I'm willing to take. The matchup obviously not going to be great. They're going to see primarily the top 6 and the fourth line of the Wild, which again, nobody really is a good matchup when it comes to the Wild. So, the upside might not be there, but a full stack of 9,000 for guys that are as talented offensively as Kostin, Thomas, and Hoffman are, I think that's a gamble I'm willing to take. If you want to play, some Toronto 1 together with maybe some Colorado or some Vegas Colorado, mixing some of those top lines together, that is a risk I think that you could probably take on this slate. They're too talented offensively to kind of not. Oh, sorry, my camera just went down there. There we go. We're back. Overall, it's just too. I think they're just too talented. Hoffman's still in the top power play unit, Thomas in the second power play unit, and then Kostin, coming back to the NHL. I think it's worth the gamble on a small slate at that price, 9,000 a full stack. I'm going to buy into it tonight. From the Wild side of things, the Kaprizov line is really the only line that I can ever really buy into. Kaprizov's just been absolutely terrific. I was very high on him coming into the season. He's really kind of even exceeded expectations. So they're the only line that I would really consider playing. The matchup overall isn't great, going up against O'Reilly primarily, and then a little bit of this fourth line overall, just not a great matchup either. So this does look like a pretty low-scoring game, but with the implied total of 3.4 for the Wild, the goals got to come from somewhere. So I would imagine, those goals most likely are going to come from the second line, which is by far their best offensive line. 2.86 expected goals for, really, really impressive. 26.6 scoring chances for. They're solid. So the matchup isn't great, but that's the line that you're going to want to target. The numbers are much better with Ryan Hartman than they were with Victor Rask. So Minnesota 2 is probably the route that I would go if I'm going to play the Wild tonight. Take a quick look here now at the power play report. We've got, the Maple Leafs power play obviously is outstanding. They also draw a really weak Senators penalty kill. So the Maple Leafs look great on the power play. I forgot to look at this in the first game. But the Wild, their power play really doesn't grade out that well in my model, but overall, it's been pretty effective of late, and they go up against the Blues penalty kill that struggled quite a bit this season. So usually when I play the Wild, the way I target them is through the power play, and that's probably what I'll continue to do. They're just not that great offensively at 5v5, but they can get it done on the power play. So, if you want to mix in some Kaprizov here, we'll pull up their power play units. If you want to mix in some Kaprizov with some Kevin Fiala together, I think that's fine. Money doesn't seem to be a huge issue on tonight's slate. I mean, obviously, depending on who you play with, no Nathan McKinnon, though, things open up a little bit. So, yeah, their top power play unit, Kaprizov, Bonino, Rask, Spurgeon, Fiala. So normally what I would do is just play Kaprizov, Fiala, and Spurgeon. So that's probably, if you're not going to play just full Minnesota 2, I think just going through the power play is usually a route that I like to go. But then going up against a really weak penalty kill for the Blues, as you can see here, by far the worst penalty kill on the slate, seems like a good recipe, a recipe for success for the Wild tonight. Sorry, my allergies. I worked outside all day today. Oh my God, I'm having a tough go here. So if I'm a little extra nasally, I do apologize. I'm battling through here though. All right, third game of the night, we have the San Jose Sharks hosting the Vegas Golden Knights. So the Golden Knights, they still have something to play for, right? Still President's Trophy up for grab here between the Golden Knights and the Avalanche. The other night, the Golden Knights had to go with 10 forwards, 5 defensemen. There has been no information as to whether or not they're going to get any of those bodies back tonight or not. Whether or not Alec Martinez returns to the lineup remains to be seen. Whether Ryan Reeves or Max Pacioretty returns is unclear. So they could have to continue to go with 10 forwards, 5 defensemen, which, they put up a pretty good fight against the Avalanche the other night. I wouldn't be surprised if, they can beat the Sharks with 10 forwards and 5 defensemen tonight. But Vegas 2 continues to grade out exceptionally well. San Jose 1 looks very good as well. Vegas 1, Vegas 3 look okay. Overall, it looks like, another Vegas 2 game. They're a line that I continue to target very heavily. For them, they're going to go up primarily against San Jose 3, which, if we look at the numbers here, San Jose 3 is not very good defensively whatsoever. So it looks like a great matchup. Overall, the Sharks are pretty brutal defensively with their current lineup. None of these lines are even close to good defensively. But if we look, obviously, on the Golden Knights side of things, they are by far their best offensive line when Max Pacioretty is not in the lineup. So Vegas 2, continue to fire them up. Riley Smith looks exceptional right now. He's playing his best hockey this season. Marchessault, always a threat to score. Carlson, just a really, really good center. So that's a line that just continues to play extremely well. The matchup is really, really good tonight. A little bit more of a difficult matchup for Vegas 1. Obviously, without Pacioretty, their numbers are nowhere near as good. That Hurdle, Barabanov, Kane line is not very good defensively, but they are so good offensively that they can hem you in a little bit and really limit what you have to do, which isn't the same thing for the rest of the Sharks lineup, which is pretty much terrible offensively. So, you can basically hem them in at any point in time, which is not the same thing to be said about that top line. That top line is so good offensively that, if you get caught out there a couple of shifts in your own end, then obviously, these offensive numbers are not going to be nearly as good. So to me, I'm going to continue to fade Vegas 1 until Max Pacioretty returns. Whether or not that's tonight, is definitely possible. But with it being such a late start, it's hard to really bank on that. So I'd be building around Vegas 2 tonight. If you want to look at Vegas 3, their numbers are good, but I really have no interest in playing like Nick Waugh or Will Carrier. I would probably just one off Alex Tuch. His shot volume is superb. 4,700. He's just such a good hockey player. He's hit the 5-shot bonus in 3 of his last 5 games. With some of the injuries, he's seen a lot more power play usage as well. He played 18 minutes the other night. A couple nights ago, he played 21 minutes. So his usage is through the roof right now without Pacioretty in the lineup. So I would just, I'm not going to play Vegas 3 as a whole, but I would definitely fire up some Alex Tuch, whether or not you want to mix him in with some of these other lines, go for it. I think mixing him in with that second line, if you want to kind of onslaught stack Vegas, go Vegas 2 with Pietrangelo and Tuch. I think that's a really nice option tonight on a smaller slate. If Alec Martinez doesn't play again, I think Nick Hague should definitely be fired up again. He's going to see some more power play time without Martinez in the lineup, which is obviously a big bonus. He's up to 3,100, but he had 3 shots, 1 assist in 17 minutes the other night. So Nick Hague looks like a pretty solid option. Also, Zach Whitecloud looks fine. He played 19 and a half minutes in that game, only 1 shot, but 2 blocks. He definitely has the opportunity to hit that shot block bonus in tonight's slate. with the additional minutes. So I do like both of those cheap Vegas defensemen tonight, but also Alex Pietrangelo looks so good right now that I would definitely be firing him up with Vegas too as well if you can fit the salary. What's up, Nerd Migos? I like that. It's a good one. This is definitely a bit of a nerdy show, at least hockey nerd. I'm definitely not like a regular nerd, but I'm a hockey nerd for sure. These numbers are the end all be all when it comes to DFS. So what's up, Nerd Migo? But all right, so the fourth line. Ooh, what was that last question? Theo or Petro? So it depends who you're playing, right? If you're going to play Vegas 2, I think Pietrangelo all day. Just correlates better with them on the power play. So if you're playing Vegas 2, then Pietrangelo. If you're playing Vegas 1, then Theodore. But if you can't fit either one of them, I like Hag and White Cloud. They're pretty much the same. I think Hag has a little bit of a higher ceiling. He could just get involved a little bit more offensively. But White Cloud probably has the better floor. So if you're playing Vegas 2, David, then definitely go Petro. Candy Capper equals the hockey nerd. Well, welcome aboard. All right, fourth game of the night, we've got the Avalanche and the Kings. So it looks like Phil Grubauer. I'm a little bit surprised about that. I mean, obviously they want to keep him fresh, but given his injury history, it seems a little bit risky to even be playing him. But hopefully I didn't just jinx him. So if you missed it, the Avalanche are going to get Sam Girard back tonight, but they will be without Nathan McKinnon. So what I've done is just gone back. They didn't run lines at the morning skate. They did run power play, so we know what the power play is going to look like, but the line's a little bit more unclear. So I just went back to whatever they went with in their most recent game without McKinnon, which looks like this, with Yost, with Landeskog and Rantanen, Nichushkin, Kadri, Donskoy, Kopfer, Newhook, and Burakovsky. Oh my God, my allergies are so bad right now. I can barely even talk. I do apologize for that. And then on the blue line, Taves, Makar most likely back still together with Girard, maybe with Nemeth, maybe with Timmins. Doesn't really matter. But power plays, Girard and Taves together on the second unit. Makar still in the top unit, which we'll see the addition of Burakovsky in McKinnon's absence. So yeah. Obviously things change a little bit without McKinnon in the lineup. Well, let's take a look at the matchup. So basically top 6 against top 6, bottom 6 against bottom 6. The second line, we'll see a little bit more of the Kings' fourth line than the first line will. But overall, the line that you want to target is that fourth line for the Kings. Really their worst defensive line. The top line, the Kopitar line, not quite as good defensively without Iafallo and Dustin Brown. So they're not really as tough of a matchup as usual. So, that top line obviously going up against the Kopitar line, they should have plenty of success. Overall, their numbers are not that great without McKinnon. To me, you can still play them. I prefer to probably just play Rantanen as a one-off as to, going with the full stack of Colorado 1. I think Rantanen as a one-off is fine. He seems to be just like focused on shooting when McKinnon is out of the lineup. So obviously, like his first game without McKinnon, they had 7 shots on net with a goal. So I don't know if I'm going to full stack Colorado 1 play, just too expensive for, kind of like the lack of upside as a whole. If you want to full stack them, they're fine. Obviously, like Yost becomes a terrific play at 3,000. Full stack 18,000 is fine. But I like Mikko more as just kind of a one-off play. Landeskog doesn't quite carry the same upside without McKinnon in the lineup. So I do like Rantanen as a one-off, and then I'm pretty interested in Colorado too. Obviously, we've seen a lot of success out of Nichushkin, Yost, Donskoy. With Kadri in the middle, the numbers are still pretty good. 28 scoring chance, 4 per 60, 13 high danger, really, really good. And as I mentioned, they're going to see quite a bit still. If we go back to the matchups here, still going to see about 28% of their ice time against Kopitar, and then about 27% of their ice time. So 50% of their ice time coming against the 2 worst defensive lines for the Kings. So I think they're a pretty decent pivot play. I don't think they're going to be overly popular. They're kind of like the new Colorado 3 with Kadri in the middle, maybe a little bit more offensive upside with Kadri. So I think that they're pretty interesting at 11,100. I don't know if you for sure have to go there tonight, but if you're playing a bunch of other expensive players like your Matthews, your Marners, maybe Marchessault, Pietrangelo, you do need kind of like a third stack that's pretty cheap. Then I think that they're another solid option. I really like them at St. Louis 3 tonight as like kind of my value stacks. And then I'm also going to continue to play this LA2 line. They, obviously, matchups, if we take a look at it, they're going to go up against the top line. Also see quite a bit of the second line. Second line, as good as they are offensively, pretty brutal defensively. The top line, not too bad defensively without McKinnon, but regardless of what these numbers say, LA2 continues to produce. Velarde and Iafallo continue to have success. They're both on the top power play unit. So I have absolutely no issue going back to them as a value option tonight with, even with those kind of brutal underlying numbers. You got 3,700 for Iafallo, 3,300 for Velarde. I do like it quite a bit still. $7,000 to full stack them. Or to mini stack them, I think is another strong value option. They continue to play a bunch of minutes. I mean, Velarde saw 16 minutes in his most recent game. He continues to just play extremely well. Iafallo, 3,700, 18 minutes in his most recent game. He had 4 shots and 4 blocks, 22.7 DraftKings points. So they're a really nice value option as well. So there's plenty of value options to go along with the top end stacks tonight. Allergies are the worst when spring goes from 60 degrees to frost warnings at night and repeat the worst. Yeah, it's been an absolute nightmare for me lately. Just horrendous. But still making it live, still battling through. Hope you guys don't mind the nasally voice as much. But in terms of the power play, the Avalanche still look really, really good on the power play tonight. Obviously you could bring those numbers down a little bit without McKinnon, but still, obviously, they look pretty good. The Kings aren't that great on the penalty kill. They have the third worst penalty kill on the slate, so should have plenty of success there. And the Avalanche do draw plenty of penalties, so they should have their fair amount of chances. The Kings, on the flip side, look okay on the power play as well. The Avs are one of the more undisciplined teams, are the most undisciplined, second most undisciplined team on the slate. Their penalty kill is not terrible. It's not great, though. And then the Kings, obviously, their power play is meh. But that's just, overall, I'm probably not going to play too much LA, but the fact that their power play has a little bit of a chance tonight is just another reason why I like Velarde and Iafallo. I think that they're a really nice mini stack. I think they can do okay at 5v5, and then both together on the top power play unit is nice. If you want to pair them with Doughty, that's completely acceptable. So yeah, that's the whole look at the power play report. I think I skipped it for the last game. Vegas looks okay on the power play. Their power play is pretty good, third best on the slate. Going up against the Sharks penalty kill, that's okay. But overall, the Sharks do not look good on the power play because they aren't good on the power play, and the Golden Knights have a good kill. I think I did gloss over a little bit, though. San Jose won. They're going head-to-head with that top line of the Golden Knights, which is not very good defensively without Pacioretty. So here's what I'll say. I am probably not going to play any San Jose unless Pacioretty's not playing. If Pacioretty's out, then I'm going to continue to fire up this top line for the Sharks. If Pacioretty plays, pull all your San Jose one, in my opinion. They are just so much better with Pacioretty, obviously. So yeah, if Pacioretty's out, I will continue to roll with San Jose one. If Pacioretty's in, I'll be a little bit more nervous. But San Jose one, their numbers are outstanding. And then if we take a look here at the overall price, I mean, Barabanov still just $2,900. Just got a fresh contract today, 1 year, $1 million. He's richer than he was at the start of the day. I think Evander Kane probably wishes he was richer than he was at the start of the day. He's still going through some bankruptcy issues. Shout out to him. Sorry about that, bud. But yeah, Thomas Hertl, 5,900 is way too cheap still. He continues to play outstanding. If you want a one-off Hertl, if Pacioretty's out, that's fine. If you want a full stack them, it's 15,700 to do so. So yeah, that's pretty much that for those games. If we want to take a look now quickly at the big board, Toronto 1 grades out as the best play on the slate. San Jose and Ott have been playing with no playoff hopes for a while. So does that give teams like this more consideration? To me, Ottawa is a little bit more interesting than most teams just because for whatever reason, like they're way out of it, but they continue to play very well. So I do think Ottawa, especially with Anderson tonight in net, I think Ottawa is a pretty good play. Of the underdogs, they have the highest implied total on the slate. So I do like Ottawa quite a bit. Even though they're out of it, they're still playing good hockey. They're not one of those teams that's just completely nailed it in. The Sharks have been playing okay as well, but it's so hard to say, right? Like you have a team like Carolina the other night, which for the most part, compared to what Nashville had on the ice, they had more of their full roster than Nashville did, and they just didn't show up. So DraftKings or DFS or fantasy hockey, there's a reason that most fantasy leagues end a week early or a couple days ago or whatever, because it gets weird at this time of year. So for me to sit here and say I know for sure what's going to happen in these games with nothing on the line or very minimal on the line, I'd be lying to you if I knew who. But this is what we're here for. We're still trying to make money. There's still opportunities to make money. People made money last night on the worst slate ever. So, but yeah, I think Ottawa's a team that just hasn't mailed it in. So I think Ottawa brings a little bit more, with Matthews and Tavares probably playing a little bit less tonight. I think that bumps up Ottawa a little bit more. With Anderson struggling, I think that bumps up Ottawa a little bit more. You mentioned this, but do you shy away from Matthews because of not much to play for tonight? Yeah, I think a little bit. I think if the slate was different, I would probably be a little bit more hesitant to play Matthews. But the way this slate sets up with plenty of value, with no other real clear chalk. Obviously, there's no McKinnon. There's no Pacioretty. So I guess the reason to shy away from Matthews would be because I think he'll be popular, right? So yeah, if he plays only 16 minutes versus 20, and he's very popular, which he should be very chalky, then yeah, I think there is a reason to shy away from him for that reason. But Matthews can play 12 minutes and score 3 goals. He's just that good. So on a slate with, plenty of value without other clear chalk, I think Matthews is obviously somebody that you're going to need to play tonight. But if you want to avoid the chalk a little bit, if you're only building one lineup, then fading him, there's more reason to fade him against Ottawa tonight than there was before. But the fact that he's just in the lineup is enough for me to play him against the Senators because he's just that good. So him and Marner, yeah. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe other people will fade them a little bit because they're thinking, hey, they don't have anything to play for, so they're not going to be very good. They're not going to play as much. Even McKinnon or McDavid the other night wasn't all that popular because maybe that's what people were thinking. But yeah, there's just not a whole lot of others. If we sort here by price at center, I mean, there's nobody even close, right? He's going to be popular. There's nobody even close to this slate. The 7,100 other than Marner. Oh, McKinnon or Rantanen at 8,200. It's the only closest. So, yeah, it all kind of depends on what you're going for. One lineup, multiple lineups. If you're building multiple, definitely have some Toronto 1 exposure. You're going to need it. If you're going one lineup, then, there might be a reason to fade him. All right, goalies tonight. Talbot grades as the number 1 option on the slate. Grubauer number 2, Marc-Andre Fleury number 3, Frederik Andersen number 4. Those are your 4 favorites on the slate. Gustafsson looks pretty solid. He's played very, very well. I think that he's a pretty reasonable punt option. He's won some games. He's made tons of stops. He should see plenty of shot volume with a lot of the least regulars in the lineup. I have more faith that Philip Gustafsson can steal a game against a Toronto team that has nothing to play for than Alexei Melnichuk stealing one against the Golden Knights, who actually have something to play for. Cal Peterson, he's been solid this year, but I just don't see them beating the Avalanche, even though they're, no McKinnon. They're still a good club. Ville Husso, he's just been pretty brutal. But I think I'd probably play Husso over Melnichuk and Peterson just because the Wild offense can go dormant at times. But overall, I think the GPP flyer has got to be Gustafsson. He's played well. He really has. And then, yeah, I think he can maybe steal this one. I don't know how much juice the Leafs are going to have. Freddie's not been very good. So even if Gustafsson wins this one 4-3 with 35 saves, then he'll be, maybe the highest scoring goalie on the slate. But Talbot looks great at 7,900. The Blues don't score a ton of goals. Talbot's been exceptional all year long. Obviously, if Grubauer starts, they're going to want to win that game. So I think Grubauer continues to make sense. I have no luck with Grubauer for whatever reason. Whenever I play him, he sucks. So I might not play him because he just screws me every time. But yeah, I think he makes no sense, and then so does Fleury. So I'll probably play most Talbot, but I'll have a little bit of Grubauer, a little bit of Fleury, and then Gustafsson will be my GPP flyer for the night. But I got a jet because my face is about to blow up. So I don't have time to go through all the defensemen, so I do apologize. But I will be back if there are any games tomorrow for another DFO DFS show. So please, if you didn't mind the nasally voice too much, please smash that like button on your way out. We'll see you guys back here very soon